Saga. In this episode, I will be talking about House of D, which is a 2004 film written, directed by, and starring David Duchovny. That's embarrassing. I did grow up watching X-Files. I should know how to pronounce that name. He played Mulder on the X-Files. It also stars Robin Williams, Anton Yelchin, and Erykah Badu. Robin Williams, obviously, he's known for best known for playing Popeye and nothing else. No, obviously he is a legend. He was very good at dramatic roles as well as comedic roles. And what's funny is that apparently not a lot of people know that he's good at drama, because every time I mention Robin Williams in like this movie or Final Cut or anything dramatic, they're like, oh yeah, that guy's hilarious, it's going to be a comedy. And no, not necessarily. Anton Yelchin, he was Bobby Garfield in Hearts in Atlantis. He played Chekhov in the Star Trek trilogy, and he played Kyle Reese in Terminator Salvation, as well as a few other roles. Unfortunately, I'm actually going to read what Wikipedia said. I knew he passed away, but I didn't know how until now. I read the Wikipedia. I'm just going to read what this says. After Yelchin failed to arrive at a rehearsal on June 18th, 2016, he was found by his friends at around 1:10 a.m. on June 19th, 2016, pinned between his Jeep Grand Cherokee and a brick pillar gate post outside his house in Studio City, Los Angeles. Dead from a freak accident. As Yelchin got out of his car and went to check his locked gate for mail, the vehicle apparently rolled back down his driveway, which was on a steep incline, and trapped him against the pillar and the security fence. Yelchin was pronounced dead at the scene at age 27. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office identified the cause of death as blunt trauma asphyxia and stated that there was no obvious suspicious circumstances involved. So, yeah, I had known he died. Celebrity dying young, I assumed drug overdose, which I know that, like, everyone's like, stop assuming that. Whenever Philip Seymour Hoffman died, everyone's like, don't just assume it was a drug overdose, and then it was a drug overdose. And then Erykah Badu, she was in All That, Cedar House Rules, and Black Dynamite, as well as other things. This movie is a coming-of-age story. It's told from the perspective of, it's David Duchovny is technically the main character. He plays the adult version of a character named Tommy, and he's telling his wife the story of when he was turning 13. And that was Anton Yelchin's character is the 13-year-old Tommy, and the story is him in New York City in 1973, and Robin Williams plays his best friend, who's a 41-year-old janitor at his school, and he's mentally challenged. However, they do not word it like that. The film has excessive uses of the R word. It did come out in 2004, which I think by then it was already unacceptable socially, but yeah. At least it kept with the times, because in the 70s it definitely wasn't unacceptable to use that word. I will not be using it though, so don't worry about that. And so the House of D in the film, it's Women's House of Detention, I believe that's the name. I actually have it pulled up on Wikipedia. It was a real place. Yeah, New York Women's House of Detention. And it was a real place. It existed from 1932 to 1974. So the year after the film took place, it was demolished. Erykah Badu plays a character named Bernadette, but throughout the film she's called Lady, because Tommy doesn't know her name. So he calls up, he's like, lady! And then, so that's what she's known throughout the movie. And at the end, like, he goes there and, like, she gives him advice, and, like, he basically, like, vents to her about everything going on, like, girls that he's seeing and stuff. Speaking of, like, girls he's into, there's one girl that he's liked throughout the film. Her name is Melissa. And what I find interesting, and I didn't know this, because I had seen this before when it first came out. My stepfather had bought it on DVD, and we watched it 100 times growing up. And I didn't know this until I went to go research this movie. Actually, until I saw the opening credits of the movie, I saw Zelda Williams' name pop up. I'm like, she's in this? I'm thinking like a small cameo. No, she plays Melissa, the love interest. If you don't know who Zelda Williams is, she's the daughter of Robin Williams. She was probably like 13 at the time. She plays the love interest in this movie. And it's kind of funny because there's scenes where Tommy, Melissa, and Robin Williams' character, I think his name is Papa? Popa? Something like that. It's like the character's last name, like Tommy doesn't call him Papa. And so like the three characters will be sitting next to each other, like sitting together. And it's funny because it's like father, daughter, and then some other person. It's like it's kind of a if you know situation. This is me while editing. I forgot to mention the whole with Zelda Williams. She isn't just Robin Williams' daughter. In fact, most people that know of her don't actually know that she is Robin Williams' daughter. She has a whole career of her own. She is a voice actress. She's, well, an actor in general, but she's also a director. She just had a movie released a couple months ago, Lisa Frankenstein. That was her movie. I saw it. It's a great movie. I have seen it listed as her directorial debut, but it's actually her third movie to direct. The other two, there was Shrimp in 2018, and in 2020 there was Kappa Kappa Die. Those were lesser known movies, but Lisa Frankenstein is, I guess, her first major release, so that's probably why they say that. So I just wanted to point that out because I realized I said that all I mentioned of Zelda Williams was that she's Robin Williams' daughter, but she has a whole career of her own. She was on, she's a voice actor. She was on Legend of Korra, I mispronounced that. She was on 2 separate Ninja Turtle series, and like a bunch of other. She was also on Teen Wolf, the show. And so she's got like a whole career of her own besides just being Robin Williams' daughter. Just thought I'd point that out. This film, I had to buy this one on DVD too because it's not streaming anywhere. It's not even like rent on YouTube situation. So like the story of this, there's a whole bunch going on. Like he's got. I think he's going to a Catholic school because there's like a priest is one of his teachers, and they have there's a scene where the teacher's like, due to political correctness, we separation of church and state, we will no longer be calling this class Bible study, but we will be calling it ethics, and they're reading from the Bible, and so I'm assuming it's Catholic school. I mean, it is 1973, but I think it was 1960 something. When they actually got rid of... I don't know. Anyway. So basically, Tommy's dad had passed away before. I don't think it gave a time frame. Like, he died when I was 10 or something. So he's living alone with his mom in an apartment in New York. Like I said, New York. And Robin Williams' character lives in the house next door with his dad, whose mom died. And Robin Williams' character's dad was kind of awful. Like, you only really see him once. And he was like, the first thing you hear him say to Robin Williams is like, your mom killed herself because you're an R word. And then Tommy goes, she was hit by a car. And then she looked at Robin Williams. He looked at Robin Williams. The father looked at him and goes, "She walked in front of a car because you're an R word." And then Tommy goes, "She was drunk. Yeah, she was drinking because her son's an R word." And yeah, his father was awful. Like, all you need to know that he's you only see him once, and you know he's an awful person. It's like, that's the situation that he's growing up in. Well, he's 41, so yeah. So, like, yeah, the whole film, like, they're trying to save up for this green bike. They call it the Green Lady. So they're working like this meat delivery job where they have like this bike with like a fridge attached to the front, and they'll like put the meat in there and they'll deliver it. And the tips they get, they'll put into like a tin and put it in like this cubby thing next to the house of detention. And that's how he meets Lady. She's up in like the top floor window, and she can't really see out, and he can't see her. So she has this piece of glass, a piece of mirror, and so that's how she sees the world. And she's like, and she calls down to him, and he's like, "Hey, you." And then like by the end, like I probably will give a little bit of spoilers here because it's not like readily available. This is not like a major spoiler, but it is kind of a spoiler. He at the end, like the last time he sees her as a kid, he's like, "I want to see you," and she's like, "No, you can't see me. I'm never getting out of here because I murdered my husband, and I'll kill anybody that gets in my way." And so like she's like, "Run, Tommy, run!" And so he runs. And like the thing is, like he wants to see her. He wants to see her face. He doesn't see her face until like at the end of that story, when it goes back to him as an adult telling his wife they're in Paris, and then she's like, "You need to go back to New York to finish your story, to like get resolution to your story or whatever." And so he goes back and he looks her up. House of D has been demolished. In real life, like I said, it was demolished the year after. And so he's trying to like find her, and he's talking to like some police person in like an office, and he's like, I know she murdered her husband. And the guy's like, "That's not possible. The House of D it wasn't maximum security. Murderers weren't there." So like that's when they realized like, oh, she wasn't. And he remembered her name. Her name was, because that's the last time he saw her. He's like, "What's your name?" "My name is Bernadette Odell something." And so like he looks her up and he goes to her place, and she doesn't answer the door, so he leaves. And I guess like to continue the tradition of talking from a window, she calls down to him, and he sees her face. He turns around, and she's standing in the window, and he sees her face for the first time. You know, she's older. And I only have one little complaint about this. So that's the first time he's seen her face, and so he hasn't seen her face up to this point. We've seen her face the whole time, and the way that's shown, where like the way the music is and the way like it's framed, it's like a reveal for us too, but it's not. We've seen her face. That we should have also not seen her face. Like we've seen her face the whole movie. Every time like she's talking, it's inside the cell with her, so we see her face the whole time. So I think it would have been a little better if we hadn't seen her face until that moment. It would have been more impactful, I think. But other than that, it was fine. And their little interaction, like, it seems like really fitting. I'm like, I was kind of hoping that like after everything they would like reconnect like properly, and like sit down like in person and have like sit down and have a conversation and stuff. So like I have like a kind of a headcanon with this. It's like because this was in 2004, and then Facebook will come around that time. So I have this headcanon that, you know, she's on Facebook, he's on Facebook, they add each other, they do stay in contact. So yeah, the film ends like a few scenes after that. Like he meets up with Robin Williams' character, who is obviously much older now, and he was kind of updating Tommy and the audience about what's going on. It's like, yeah, my daddy died, and I'm no longer an R word. And he's like, yeah, I was mentally challenged, and now I'm yeah, he would like go throughout the years. It's like, yeah, now I'm basically just I think that's the movie saying like, oh, that word's not acceptable anymore. It was in the 80s, I think. Because in 83 I was like mentally handicapped, and then in 89 I was mentally challenged. And I think that's just him saying like they changed the terminology. He's still the same person, I guess. And you know what? I'm still stuck on that whole Facebook thing. Like, I do want a sequel because, like, okay, so like the beginning kind of implies his son's going to be important because like his son's turning 13, and he says to his son, like, while his son's asleep, like, I have to tell you what I did. I did something when I was younger and I've never told you or your mother, and I'm going to finally tell you. But he only tells his wife. His son doesn't wake up till after he's done telling the story, and he goes with them to New York, and he only says like one line the whole movie, like at the end, and his son ends up not being important, other than the fact like, oh, it's my son over here. And so like they should have done more with his son. So I kind of hope, and I know that this isn't going to happen, but there should be a sequel. Totally. Yeah, not everything is going to get a sequel, especially like this isn't going to get a sequel, but like I do kind of want to continue the story. There's elements of the story that didn't get resolved in my opinion, like, but it is kind of realistic because like I said, like the love interest was Melissa. That's not who he's married to in the 2004 adult Tommy era. He's not married to her. It's some random French lady. And it doesn't really tell you what happens to Melissa. Like, they're dating, and then like he has to run off abruptly, and they don't have any resolution to that at all. And like whenever Robin Williams' character is updating him on like everything that's happened, he doesn't even mention Melissa. Which when I'm watching it, I'm like, hey, I want to know what happened to everybody. But it's like that's also kind of realistic. Like they were basically they were dating for like a couple weeks, maybe like 20 years before he came back. So like that's probably not going to be noteworthy. I don't know. So like I guess in a realistic sense that makes sense. But from a narrative standpoint, what was the point of all of that? You know? But yeah, like, I can't really criticize the film for that because it is realistic, I guess. But yeah, like, if you find a way to watch this film, like I said, I had to buy it on DVD. It is not on Blu-ray, at least from what I saw. I do recommend watching it. It's a good, like, coming-of-age story. There's, So speaking of realism, there's a scene, like when things start to pile up for Tommy, like the stuff that's happening. Like there's big stuff I'm not spoiling. Cause the thing that he said he did, he's like, I did something I've never told anybody. You do eventually see it, and I'm not gonna spoil that. But like before that point, he starts, things start piling onto him, and he goes back to Lady in the window. And he cries, and he cries a few times in this movie, but like, there's this really, it's kind of like openly sobbing moment, and usually I don't like crying scenes in movies because it always seems so fake, but he basically cries like a 13-year-old. He cries like a little kid would cry, which is realistic because he is a little kid in this scene. They don't try to like Hollywood cry, if that makes sense. And so like he cries like a little kid because he's a little kid. Well, 13, but you know what I mean. And he cries like a 13-year-old would cry, not like they would have like an adult cry in a film. And even then, like when they have adults cry in films, it's not realistic at all. Because no one cries like that. Like they always have like they're crying, but they still look like Hollywood stars. But no, like this kid, like yeah, like I will say it's realistic. uh Anyway, yeah, back to the watching this if you can find it. I found it on Amazon for like it was like $5 on Amazon on DVD, which honestly I was a little surprised by because two of its main stars, like Robin Williams and Yelchin, they've both passed away since then. Actually, 2 years apart. I just realized. Because Robin Williams passed away in 2014, and Yelchin in 2016. Huh. But yeah, like they're the main stars throughout most of the film, and they've both passed away. And there's like high profile deaths, not like, oh yeah, did you hear that this random person that you've seen twice in movies died? But like they're high profile celebrities deaths, you'd think the film would be worth a little more and people would have more interest in it. But no, like I asked, and the only people that had heard of it, there was my sisters obviously, and then I had one friend who'd heard of it. And only because he said he only had heard of it because he had seen like an interview with Robin Williams where he like mentioned some of his dramatic roles, and he mentioned House of D, and that's the only reason he hadn't even seen it. So this film should be a little more noteworthy, I believe. Not just because a couple of the actors have died, but like it's a legitimately good movie that people should know about. But the good news is it's only $5 on Amazon on DVD if you wanna watch it. But yeah, I think I'll end the episode here. And cut.